My name's Amelia and this is Nishi, and we are 2/3 of Flourish and Diversity. Sadly, our third co-founder, Julia, couldn't be here today. And we host a annual paid training program for school leavers from minority, ethnic and low socioeconomic backgrounds based in London, and with our ultimate goal to diversify the fashion industry.
Yeah. So you're really focused on representation in fashion.
Absolutely. And also the sustainability part of the program is also very key. If we think about how fashion is moving in the future, that needs to be front of mind. So we really want to do that work of educating the next generation of fashion leaders in that area of work as well.
So Nishi, I know you come from a broadcasting background and you work in TV and media. And Amelia, you work in fashion. How did you get together? What was the journey?
Yeah, so our journey actually began, for my part, is a mutual introduction through somebody at Sky, where I work, to Julia, who's our other co-founder. And it really was about sort of leaning into the work that I was already doing in terms of giving young people opportunities to have a better future. And that's really what my bread and butter is. It was almost quite serendipity that we were introduced to say that, you know, I still work at Sky and do the work. But it was my own personal experiences, having been at fashion college in the late 80s, early 90s, and, you know, the London College of Fashion, prestigious enough. There was probably in the year group that I was in, probably of sort of like 80 students. I was probably one of two Asian women or Asian young girls. And then when I came out of college, it was just impossible to get a job, and the dream had always been to become a fashion buyer and travel the world and, you know, really think about sort of what I could create and be really creative. But it soon ended because every single door was closed. I was, in my mind, beyond working on the shop floor as a sales assistant, and that was what I was being offered, and that's not why I went to the London College of Fashion.
No, absolutely not. There's, I think, a lot of in-group, out-group in fashion. And you perhaps this is something you know a little bit more of, or you've been on the inside for quite some time. Like, how have you felt? Like, what was the gap for you?
We came together really at probably the most perfect, like, pinnacle time for each of us individually. In COVID, feeling very isolated. I was on furlough, so I wasn't even working. So I was really feeling quite like, what the hell am I doing? And I think for all of us, it was really through our shared passion and like devotion to promoting diversity and sustainability in the industry, but also beyond, like in everyday life. So for me, Julia and I worked together in a fashion company. And so we, you know, became friends, and we always knew what each other's, what our interests are, what our passions were, what drove us. But I think for me, I was really questioning my position in the industry. Like, I just think I was still quite new. Like, I moved to London from Australia 6 years ago now. Yeah. So at that point in 2020, it was 3 years in. I was only really like 3 years into working full time in industry rather than interning before, which I did, interned unpaid, studying in Australia. So I think I was really questioning what my position was and what kind of space I was taking up, if I really wanted to be in an industry that's like the second largest polluter in the world, if I really wanted to be one of or the only woman of colour in a design team in an office that was predominantly white. Like, did I really want to be part of this kind of cycle and chain? So I think for me personally, like the discussion when Julia approached me again and then we had our first meeting, I was like, okay, this is how I can almost like off-put me being here and me taking up this space and me possibly not really feeling like it's the right thing to do or the like the best job with actually, okay, no, fashion's never going to change. So how can I use my position to make it better for the people and change these spaces so that actually we can be doing some really amazing stuff in the future.
And have you felt supported? I mean, maybe in the closest sense by your employers, but also then by your friends' family. Like, how has it been? How easy is it, or difficult has it been to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I always describe this as a side hustle, but a very important one. You know, my team will always ask me, "Do you ever sleep?" The answer is very little. But my job, whether it's kind of the job that I do as a day or the work I do here, and then also I have a project in India in my ancestral village, it's because I believe this needs to be done, and it is making a difference. And we are all about making a difference. Even if you are changing one person's life, that's one more than that was ever going to have an opportunity. Yeah. And I kind of live for that. And I think for me, you know, there's that saying, you know, when work doesn't feel like it's work, it was the work that you were made to do. Yeah. So this is really how I kind of almost sort of like settle with it. In terms of
or driven by that.
Driven by that is probably the right way. Yeah. So for me, it's like important work that has to be done. And if we don't do it, then I think we stand on the sidelines knowing all of this. I think we're also then contributors to the problem.
Yeah. It's one thing not to see a problem, but when you see it and you're like...
And avoid it. Yeah, but I mean, the support, that's, I guess a wider thing. I was thinking back when I was kind of thinking about coming and having this conversation about... Because it's been a massive journey. Yeah. Like, we started this in 2020. We had all intention to launch in 2021. We couldn't. We pushed back a year. Yeah. We launched our first program in 2022, and now we've had 2 programs. Yeah. So it has been a long time for us, again, on the side of full-time jobs and careers. So it is really putting in the time and effort when we can. I think the support from our closest family, friends, peers has been incredible. We launched a crowdfunder campaign to kickstart everything because we had no financial backing. We had nothing. We were coming at this like, where do we begin? So it was really actually that first campaign called Change the Trend, which was us almost
calling it out,
but also almost like market research in a way. Like, it was us kind of working out, is there actually a need? We knew there was a need, but is there actually a community that we can rely on? Is there actually support that we can gain? Are people going to listen to us? Like, are people going to take us seriously? Like, you know, we're not coming from high decision-making roles at Vogue and LVMH. Are people actually going to listen to people within industry that don't have that backing? And it was incredible. Like, we raised, I can't even remember the figure now, but we raised a good amount of money from predominantly our community. Then our model had to shift and we had to ask for support from industry, and that's where we really hit a wall.
That's
unfortunately
struggle.
That's the struggle. Like, we were successful in 2 grants in 2022, which really were the only way we could run our program. So that was the National Lottery and the Westfields Futures Fund, based in Stratford in East London. And we're so grateful to them because that's really how we could kickstart and run our first pilot program. But the industry, like a wall every single time, which is still.
Tell me a little bit about the kids you're working with and what their ambitions are and what they want and how you help them.
I think that's probably like the part that I love the most is when you start to unpack their journey and you see from the moment we interview them, we hear about them, we have their first conversations, and then seeing them over a period of time when they're going through that program with us, how they start to build that confidence, how they start to really come out. And then you understand actually, and even if you had an inkling there was an issue, it's apparent, it is clear, that sense of belonging for that young person that has this drive, that passion, great ideas, but they've got nowhere to take them and they've got no voice.
And they don't see it reflected.
And they don't see representation.
And they also don't, they don't see it as an option.
Yeah.
So it's also like we do the interviews, as Nishi said, but we also do like a questionnaire kind of, I can't think of
feedback, evaluation.
Evaluation. So at the beginning and at the end. And their goals change. Within 4 weeks, their goals change from maybe being quite small or even dreaming big. And they're like, everyone comes in and wants to be a fashion designer. Yeah. But what we're giving them the education and the tools and the crafting for is to really like make their own mark, make up their own role, or learn about all the plethora of roles that are in the industry.
Yeah.
So it's incredible to see after 4 weeks we ran it the first year and only 2 weeks the second year, and still like 2 weeks was enough for them to completely shift their ideology of what they knew was possible within them, what they thought they could do, what was achievable for them.
We take them through the production cycle. So they actually have the whole kind of story.
The whole design cycle,
and it is a very hands-on experience as well for them. So when we do a natural dye workshop, they are participating. Yeah. They are creating their own pieces. Then, doing a factory visit, how important is it for them to see the behind the scenes even before it's kind of anywhere seen? It's like, where does it start from? And for some of them, that's kind of new. So even if they are, individuals that want to have their own brand, but actually, do they actually know what's behind it all and where the journey begins? Mm-hmm. And then how do you tell the story? So when we do our kind of PR, how do you kind of, sell this in? That's a really important part as well. So it's not just about, what they see on Instagram, but actually there's a whole theory behind it. Yeah. So being able to kind of help them understand that, it starts to build a picture for them. Yeah. When they have to do their projects, because we set projects for them.
That's cool.
And as part of that, they have to then present those to a line of experts. And they are then putting themselves in those vulnerable positions of having their work critiqued, also equally celebrated. It enables them to find new confidence. And I think knowing with some of the feedback we have is, I didn't even know I could do that. Standing up in front of complete strangers who they know, who they might also, they've come from brands where we've had goodwill from certain brands that have actually said, look, we will help with the workshop, or we will help to kind of be one of your judges on giving feedback. They might be brands that these young people are aspiring to be part of. Yeah. So that's really when, you really see, okay, we've turned the key here.
And again, a lot of the feedback we've had from our alumni is, wow, it's amazing that we can talk to these people. Yeah. We can ask these people questions.
They're accessible.
They're accessible. We give them their emails at the end. They can shoot them an email, and we push for that because again, when you're starting on the back foot, when you already have all of these barriers set for you, just building a network of people in the industry seems impossible when we're in an industry that is built off nepotism. So,
and I definitely think, had there been that sort of stepping stone from education to the workplace for me, my career and trajectory might have been very different. I do believe I have one of the best jobs, and I get to kind of give back through that and be able to do it through a very different brand. And I think it's fair to say the fashion industry are behind on the curve when it comes to diversity and inclusion. And I think we've seen that with some brands that we've spoken with. I do think they are on a journey themselves in terms of kind of really looking at how they can make positive changes. And I think, and the way we've talked about sort of we want more brands to kind of recognise the work that's being done by organisations like Flourish and Diversity or others, and they should see us as enablers to solving some of the problems that they are encountering within their own companies.
I know when we were talking earlier, you were reading out some of the testimonials. Would you mind doing that?
Yeah, I would love.
I think it's just so important to remember whose lives are being changed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got so many stories. I'll read some of the ones we have here because I know, Nish, you have a bit of a story you want to tell from our alumni from the first year. So this is a message we received from one of our alumni last year.
Yes.
I had my first day at my new job, and it's the most lovely place to work. It's thanks to you and the team that I'm able to even have the confidence to be in the position I am today. Tears. Like immediately, I was just like, oh, and that was just, months had passed, random message, and that just that's why we are doing it.
Yeah.
Two others were Flourish and Diversity helped in allowing myself to see the potential everyone sees. And Flourish helped me learn a lot about the fashion industry and real life practical work scenarios. Overall, I feel more confident and positive about my work and ability to be part of the industry.
Yeah.
So again, it's just like... It's the confidence. We're giving these young people the tools, the self-belief. These young people need to have issues that they want to discuss. Things might have happened at home, and they want to know that they can come and have the support. I think just knowing that they can be heard, being there for them, because some of them might not have those kind of role models in their life as well.
I didn't ask, how old are these?
So they're 18 to 21.
Okay.
And so they're school leavers with a fashion A-level background.
Okay.
So at this stage, we've had to, keep it narrow. Would love to widen the pool when we can. 18 to 21. So they're young. They're really young.
If I think about careers advice in schools, it's a secondary job often for a teacher. And then when it comes to the parent side of that, it's what's in their peripheral. So what do they know about careers? And very often you'll find that most parents will do and tell you what they know.
Of course.
So if they have been sort of, work.
And we know what minority parents know.
Exactly.
It's about sort of
which makes so much sense. I completely understand that. If you don't have the means, currently the way the industry is set up, I did an unpaid internship. And the only way I could do that is because I lived at home. And I worked, and in that time, also had the support of my parents. If you don't have that at 18 years old, you can't do your unpaid internship, and then you can't get that. They're the stepping stones. So I completely understand why parents are saying you need to get a job, you need to get paid. That would be insane to say, hey, I'm going to go work for 6 months free.
And another really important, it was a message that was sent and shared by one young man that was in our second year, and that's in his words always have stayed with me. It's just, I can't believe there's people like you that are there for people like me. That choice between financial security and living your dream, or being able to have the freedom to really explore what your life could be if you're really passionate about a particular thing. So in our first year, we had a young lady who, it's fair to say, she was co-parenting her siblings because sadly, her mother died when she was quite young. We're talking about a 19-year-old here. And, she had some support from extended members of her family, but often enough, we'd get called to say, I'm sorry, I need to pick up my sister, or I need to go and pick up my brother. And it was only till a bit later we started to hear her journey and her story. She had an absolute desire to have her own street brand, and really was very passionate, was very clear about what she wanted, very clear about what her direction was. Had probably, I would say, zero confidence in her dream and in her ideas, but we saw it straight out. She had a real presence. Everything she touched in and during that program was, okay, this young woman is going somewhere. She then landed her 3-month internship with a high-end brand that, translated in incredible experience of, I never thought they would want to work with me, to then landing a further whole year internship with another high-end designer brand. She would never have thought that
paid
was
or unpaid?
Paid. All of these are paid. So the internships that we supply and offer as part of the program are all paid. And our program is paid as well. We actually didn't explain that before. So they're paid to come and be upskilled.
And to the point about our decision was very clear that we will put young people through this program and pay them. Because what we didn't want was young people having to make a choice between taking any summer job to investing in themselves, and us also then showing trust and investment in them. So we pay them London living wage to go through the program as well. And that's the commitment we made right from the onset.
Yeah, we're not coming from, some high up level or a conceived high up level in fashion in the industry with a big brand backing us or anything. So we're coming in as disruptors, knocking down the doors. And I think people were, just a little bit apprehensive, a little bit okay. Although they were talking, big talks. It was 2020 back at BLM and COVID. All the EDI boards had been built in these companies at that point. Only then. Big budgets to give to whoever was going to come and help them diversify their workplaces. But when it came down to doing the nitty gritty, like weren't kind of willing, to support or stringing us along or saying they're doing things internally. But as we explained before, like we've done the hard work. We've
created this program.
And I mean, yes, okay, our pilot, you know, we wouldn't know how it would turn out. And the pilot was incredibly successful. So then we really thought going into year 2, we're like, yeah, okay, we've got this. We've got these testimonials. We've got these industry professionals that, you know, were incredible. Like we have to shout out everyone that did come on board and support us, because we've built some incredible relationships with these people and they've come on for both years and will continue to support us. So it hasn't been all like doom and gloom, but in terms of, trying to get inside these fashion houses, get financial support from them, set up placements, and ensure that we can really streamline these incredible, diverse fashion leaders into their companies, it hasn't really been successful.
If you're trying to kind of design for the future and your future customers, you need to take note.
I'm thinking, as you say this, of the Met Gala recently.
Yeah.
That was... It was clearly nobody in that room, in that decision-making room, was sitting there thinking, guys, how is this going to land? It looks entirely tone deaf.
Yeah.
You know, all of the millennials and Gen Z who are consumer based, right? Because the even if you're looking at it from a purely marketing,
absolutely.
The bulge is purchasing power bulge is in millennials. And so like, but those guys are looking at these atrocities. How tone deaf is it going to be if we hold this event that completely ignores it? It looks like something out of the Hunger Games, which is how it was taken. And that's because you've just got a group that's possibly, I'm saying it's because so confidently, but I imagine it's a contributing factor that group is so isolated from what's going on.
You've got you've got no minority, you've got nobody that has any point of difference that's going to fight for something different. And that's what or you're not listening. Exactly, which is most likely. But they're the boardrooms that we're coming up against, and they're like, I can so plainly and like confidently say that they are the boardrooms in all the fashion houses.
Representation is seen. I mean, I think, you know, we see all the ads now, and I have a slight sort of like, every time I see, oh, here's another ad with another coloured person, or here's another ad with another coloured person. Actually, they're back to back. Show me your boardroom. Like, that's great. Like, you know, like, yes, black people do take holidays, and thank you very much for advertising that too now, because for years we didn't, right? But that now has changed. But actually, can I see who's in your boardroom today? That will look very different to that ad you just put out. Young people now see themselves as global citizens. They don't just see themselves in their own country. That's why they are so outspoken about things like climate change or, you know, the things that are going on around the world. You know, they are out in the streets protesting. They want to have a voice. And brands need to start to align themselves with that, not just what looks good. They have to be good.
I think they're scared of it.
Of course they're scared of it. I'm scared of it. I can't be deaf to what's happening around and just be like, we're like a fashion lifestyle business. How great is this? All this stuff, and then like people are dying. It's just impossible. So like I have to find a way to reconcile the two. And part of my courage as a brand owner has been like, I'm trying to build that confidence. I'm trying to build the courage of like, how do we bring in voices to talk about really difficult issues, but without contributing to a polarization problem? You know, because it is polarizing. It's difficult.
I always believe it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that requires you to have civility. And being able to do that. So being able to have a conversation that allows you to see the viewpoints of all, but also not being afraid to say what you believe in in a way that doesn't actually isolate that other person in your viewpoint as well. Dialogue is always the way that you can actually get to some sort of agreement or being able to, you know, achieve a positive outcome in a situation. And I think if brands aren't willing to have dialogue with people like us and say like, okay, you know, you have got a problem and we would like to talk to you, and you know, like, does this interest you? And like, how can you come to the table and support?
It's small things and small changes that they can do. And I think for them, it's about what we want, the brands that we want to work with. We want it to be authentic. We want them to actually want to diversify their head offices. We actually want them to be committed to sustainable and ethical practices within their company. We're not going to throw a young person into a place that we don't believe is right for them. I think it's just literally just getting diverse young talent into entry-level roles so that they can, one, for them, experience it and start growing their industry, but two, so these voices can start being heard and then slowly progress. I mean, not so slowly, it would be great if it wasn't, you know, but like, and start progress up.
This is all challenging work, and it's taxing and emotionally taxing. You have your jobs and so on. Can you tell me a little bit about how you keep going, how you balance your work with this work, and how you stay sane and look after your mental health?
I think for me, like, this was the important work. Like, and not at all to diss what I do during the day, but that is easy. Like, that's getting up, that's going to work 10 to 6. Like, that is kind of a recipe. Like, this was the important work. This was the passion. This is what's making me almost like feel sane and be able to like go through everything else, if that makes sense.
I think, firstly, let me just get out of the way, is I'm a first generation British-born Asian. So my parents came over as immigrants to this country. That then itself brings a whole set of emotions and sort of learned behaviours as a result of coming to a country where you experience a lot of racism. You know, I mean, the story my mum always told me was, no, you'll never really get that far because, you know, they're not going to let you. And obviously she always referenced to people of a different, you know, background to us that would not always be in the way. She also came over as a sort of trained nurse to then go to Scotland in the early 60s to become a midwife. Now you can imagine an Asian woman who's come from East Africa, then goes to Scotland, to Inverness to train as a midwife, what that experience must have been. But she did it. That's the story she should have told me, but she didn't. She told me all the stories of why it couldn't happen. And to be honest, my mum only agreed for me to go to fashion college. She thought I was going to learn to sew, like a good Indian girl.
Right.
So she had no idea that my ambition was so big.
Yeah.
So I think for me...
And you kept it to yourself.
I didn't really express myself. Like, I was the only A-level textile student in the entire school.
Wow.
And because I was like, okay, and my mum again, oh, she's been good. She's learning to sew. You know, that's a very good thing for any Indian girl to be doing. Again, that cultural impact of my life and my decision-making was constantly there. Sometimes I feel like I'm... like these things drive me, but they also drag me.
Yeah.
So that sense of achievement that you want to be able to make in life beyond you could be more than you ever thought you could be is what drives me.
I was going to say that sounds like a driver for sure.
The work I do allows me to potentially correct some of the wrongs in my life. And that's probably one of the things that I very much cherish and like to nourish the work that I do. And to be honest, I didn't even tell my husband for a whole year. And because I didn't think he would understand. And how do I then try to articulate that to him? Because it was like something that I really believed in deep down in me. And I knew the place it was coming from. And he had no idea. And it was only until I kind of really then had to sort of say, by the way, I've just set up this social enterprise with these other two women. I don't really know them, but I've just done it. And I think it's going to be a really good thing.
And it's been a year.
And I'm doing this over the summer, and I know I won't be around much, but this is what's happening. Like, for me, doing this work, and the thing that keeps me sane is I can stay focused on that. Why am I doing it in the first place? And because, again, always tell you all this because it comes from... what if they had a chance? What would they do with their lives? And that's what keeps me sane. It drives me. Like I said, it probably often drags me as well. Because this life has to be more than what we know it to be today. It has to go beyond your own everyday thoughts and life. And you know, that's why I say if anybody is thinking about taking that step, just do it. because tomorrow...
In terms of what, like supporting people, giving back? Yeah,
just kind of giving back. If you have a great idea and you feel it deep inside you and you know the connectors to all of that is about a purpose that you have within yourself or a purpose that's going to help others, then don't delay, because that might be the very reason why you exist sometimes. And without denial, it's absolute hard work. It is.
Be prepared.
Yeah. So, you know, there are, yes, sleepless nights. There are, like, making choices between, like, you know, do we get on a call on a Sunday and work through this? And you might think, well, actually, Sunday afternoons, do I want to do this?
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah, it's
you're
true.
making those choices.
Yeah.
And so be prepared to make choices that requires a lifestyle change sometimes.
It does, yeah. I think that's important.
And that's, you know, and like if you, and I would say to you is like, don't be kind to yourself. Don't judge yourself when on the days that you can't perform to that, oh my God, I was going through this and I need to kind of like get this document done and all the rest of it. If you have enough of your passion that is actually, and you trust in yourself, you will get the job done.
And also I think it's also key to be surrounded by just that support system.
Yeah.
And so in the three of us, we're very honest and open with each other as well. So if someone is having a bad day and can't show up or can't be part of the meeting, like, you know, we took our time for a reason. So we're not going to, you know, we don't set these insane deadlines for ourselves that we just can't achieve.
Yeah.
Because there's no point like burning out.
Yeah.
And we've all experienced it throughout this process as well. And I just don't believe in pushing yourself that far. When we do have to get up every day and do our other full-time, full-on jobs, like there's no point, Joy, there's no point making this feel like homework and a task you don't want to do. If it is like, inverted commas, like really killing you, like take a break.
Yeah. and it's like it's there's work to be done, and there's like important to kind of like, you know, be timely in what you have to do, but it's not a race.
No.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's not a race.
Thank you so much. Very wise words. Thank you so much, Emily and Anishi. Thank you so much for joining.